What's going on, everyone? My name is Ethan. I go by Lord Ethan. I am a 6-year Overwatch collegiate varsity coach, and today we're going to be taking a look at some Ashe gameplay. This is a player called XZen, and they are playing a I think right around smack dab middle of silver, maybe middle high silver. They mention, I've been playing a lot of Ashe, just want some help with the little things. They say, I know you guys have lives, but it would be great if I could get some coaching on my positioning and my ability usage. Here we go. So yeah, we can definitely take a look at the ability usage and the positioning. Those are actually going to be really closely tied, and then Junkertown is a really excellent map to take a look at the Ashe on. So here in a couple of seconds, when the gates open up, taking this high ground position is going to be a really strong place to start. I apologize, by the way, guys. I'm coming over some allergies, so it's very tough for me to sound normal. I like these early instances of damage, but like you have a dynamite. So you mentioned positioning and ability usage. Here you have a position that is really good to cast the dynamite onto a nice good group of targets, or at least a couple of targets you can confirm. You stay here a little bit too long. You take a little bit too much damage, and you don't even get all of your health back from spawn, which is interesting. You also have a faster traversal back to spawn if you just coach gun, which is an ability you haven't used up until this point, and then you're a little bit late with the dynamite. So two opportunities that we could dynamite. Or rather, one opportunity we could dynamite, and one opportunity we could have dynamited a lot earlier. And then again, staying in these positions just a little bit too long, right? I think, oh yeah, so definitely higher level Widowmakers are definitely going to punish you for being as far away from cover as you are, and you've been here for a very long period of time. Overwatch happens in what I call fight phases. That's about 8 to 12 seconds, depending on the compositions and such. And so you really want to not be in a position in any one spot longer than 8 to 12 seconds, especially if they know that you're in that position. You're the red team. Go for dynamite uses here, and you don't have to play on the objective. It's not a bad place to score some kills, but you really are playing a character that benefits from her ability to play at range, right? So manipulating some of these longer sightlines is something that nice shots, that you're doing comfortably, right? And so I would opt for these as opposed to playing right on top of the objective here. Those are excellent picks. It's nice to get the cart moving here as well. And we're just looking to set up for the next fight. It's also really important to do some scouting here. So who do we see? And make sure that you're pinging your targets. Oh my goodness, if knowledge is power and intel is the basis of most of our decisions in Overwatch, then it's really valuable to your teammates if you ping your targets. These are really challenging shots. I would just move up 5 meters here and play the catwalk to coach gun away from the Vendetta when she jumps you here. And then I would actually either dynamite the Vendetta or dynamite people as you scout them. So I actually really like that. That will force her out of that position, and then you can see about going for the Bob here. The rule when it comes to ultimates is if you have it, use it. You don't want to dump all of your ults with all of your team in the same fights, but I mean, it is nice to win fights, and the easiest way to do that is by using our ultimates, and it's usually best to do that during the fights that during the fights that we've already generated in the 4, or during the fights that we finish generating them. These are nice shots, but be careful about standing still on top of the objective. You're very far away from any kind of natural cover besides the objective itself, and that's not quite natural because it's going to move as the fight changes. So you want some positions around which you can be dynamic, but the positions themselves and the cover itself is static. You end up out in the middle of the open here and playing sightlines where there's really only one angle down which for all 5 of them to look at you. It means that you're going to take damage that could be otherwise meant for your team and your tank. It's funny that as you get distance between yourself and your targets, that's when I'm going to like your gameplay on the Ashe here a little bit more. And as you close the distance, as you walk towards this objective that you don't need to be on, or play on the low ground instead of the high ground, which gives you better, cleaner, safer angles, then that's why I'm going to start to lose my favor just a little bit. So opt for those high ground positions, play those Ashe ranges. If you're playing on Cassidy, maybe you do want to play close to the objective on the low ground, close to your shots within your effective ranges. A little unfortunate to die there, but that's kind of also okay. You kind of get fried there, but you want to be really sensitive to being scouted. being marked in those kinds of positions for those enemies who are well equipped to deal with you on that position. You want to make sure that that you understand. Okay, I'm up here. If I start getting pressured, if I start getting shot at, then I'm going to look to get out of this spot. You're out in the open right now, away from walls, corners, covers. Closer to walls, corners, covers is one of my main expressions, and that is applicable all the way up until high GM. So I like the fact that you end up back on this angle or back on this cover, but you're also stacked on top of your entire team, which means, again, all of the damage coming from all of them is going down one angle, which is onto you and the rest of your team, so you are just as eligible to take that damage as the rest of your team, which is disadvantageous to you. You want to be on angles where if your team is taking damage, you aren't taking damage, or if you're taking aggro, right, if you're taking a little bit of pressure, then your team is free to do as they please, right? And that was best accomplished over there on that on the right side, which you had already been on. Be careful. You want to make sure that you know where your enemies are before you go for those ability casts. You had that Mizuki scouted, but again, if you want to be moving your positions regularly as the fight phases persist, as the fight changes, then you want to make sure that you're opting for ability usage which is based off of scouting info. And guess where that scouting info is most easily generated? That's right, the high ground. We want to get on top of those positions. I'm seeing a lot of time spent on the objective. It is really important to get that moving, and I don't know how long you've had your ultimate here, but I don't think that you've had it long, or at least I haven't had the opportunity to mention that, oh, you really got to use this Bob by now. So I think that this is perfectly fine. Now, I believe that this is a match that our Ashe player, Xen, actually ends up winning here, which is really fantastic. There's definitely a lot going on here beyond that which we've just talked about. This is going to be one of those shorter reviews where the length of the review is only about as long as the replay code itself, or as long as it takes for us to get some of the most important principles, which for now are going to be playing our comfortable ranges, again, as Ashe, playing a little bit further. If we were on Cass or Emre or Soldier, right, maybe that's different. If we were on Middlemaker, maybe we're all the way in the far back, right? But for the Ashe here, play the Ashe ranges, opt for high ground positions. Don't feel the need to place yourself on the same angles as your teammates where all of you guys are going to take damage, and those will give you the best positions to use your abilities a lot sooner. Positions where you will be forced to coach gun either your threat off of the high ground or coach gun yourself into a new position, or a dynamite to get big AoE damage. Those are nice shots, by the way, or a coach gun to get big AoE damage and in pressure onto high value targets. You're definitely there a little bit too long. You get forced out, and honestly, that's a position that you could get picked from. It's really interesting that you maintain that angle. I don't mind the forwardness of this position. You just want to be ready to get out of it, and also you have to consider that the amount of time and distance that you have to cross to get out of this spot is really long, which means anyone with a low enough TTK, with high enough damage or high enough pressure, can kill you before you can actually cross, right? And that's kind of what we see here. The burst damage that Vendetta can do is more than enough to cut through your position, even despite your coverage that you had there, right? So that's a forward position. If you want to play those, which is a-okay actually, to build ultimate, to apply pressure, to get a unique angle, right? You see how I'm not complaining about you taking the same damage as the rest of your team? If you're going to play positions like that, you want to be ready to bail out of those positions, right? Because that is a very easy position for the Vendetta to jump up to you, right? The same as if it were a Genji or an Anran or some other character with mobility, right? Dropping off the high ground is really problematic there, even for picks. Don't drop off of high ground. Generally, the high ground and your position on it, your adherence to its advantages, is a lot more valuable than any pick you could secure dropping off the high ground. It is still a decision that you have to make at times, such as when there's a highly valuable target to pick, when dropping off the high ground is part of a set of conditions that either helps you move the fight forward with advantages, or that helps you win it favorably. But generally, you want to just stay on top of this high ground. Really, that's universal advice as well. There's going to be a lot of VODs on my channel that you'll be able to see. I recommend staying on high ground. So, although I do believe we should contest the objective here, and that's something that we should be looking to do as a team, it's going to be really hard to do that, and so it's okay to let that go. We do have the Bob here, so if we are thinking about contesting the objective, a nice way to get them to stop moving it is to go for the Bob on the point here, or to Bob somewhere behind them. That forces all of them to either get off the objective because he can see it, or to turn around and fight the Bob, which is obviously fighting the Bob, not moving the objective. We go for a couple of ultimates here, and we throw a dynamite that isn't based off of any kind of excuse me, any kind of scouting info. So we want to make sure that we are generating intel before we go for our ability uses and as we are moving from position to position. I actually really like this Bob. It compensates for the absence of our tank. It establishes kind of a man advantage, right? Even though not all ultimates are man advantages, you definitely do get an extra man on the field with the Bob there. And generally, that's actually an excellent use for the ultimates. Now, be careful about the amount of damage that you take on the point here. You're down your tank. You don't have your ultimate. You do want to build the next one. You don't want to die early, especially since your tank is going to be returning back from spawn relatively soon. Because of that, you don't have to be the one to contest the objective. All you needed to do was what was within your means, which was use the Bob to contest the objective, and then from there, find a high ground on which you could do pressure damage, build your ultimate, and acquire scouting intel that helps you understand how to play out the next phase of the fight. The Vendetta is on this angle, so I want to be ready to leave whenever she jumps me, right? Coach gun that. Oh, yes, coach gun that. Yes, much earlier I coach gun that because the coach gun is not only a way to disrupt her, but also does a little bit of damage and sends her onto the low ground where you have advantages. It's not about necessarily letting her jump up there so that you can secure the kill. Securing the kills doesn't necessarily help you win the fight in the long term. Say you kill the Vendetta, but then the rest of them walk through this choke here, you miss a couple of shots, so Lucio absolutely it dinks your head there, right? And you die, right? The pick on the Vendetta is good for nothing. Dropping off the height is really disadvantageous here. You do want to be wary of the Vendetta, what she's doing, your threats in general. You want to make sure that you know. Although I like the fact that you're applying pressure onto what feels like the right targets, right? You don't need to give the targets that aren't going to win the fight for them the time of day. Now you're a little bit forward here, right? I want to make sure that that we have this this point cleared, right? So make sure that you're always looking around you to make sure that you know where everyone is, right? You're moving forward on the Torbjorn because the fight was resolving, but the Vendetta was still alive. It's not necessarily I trust my team to kill that. Be careful about repeaking this angle. I like the shots that you're going for, the damage that you're able to apply, but it's not worth dying for when you have your ult, and the only reason that you haven't died is because you have a faithful Mercy player tending to your needs and your wounds. You back up a little too far here and end up in the Zarya ult. So you want to be careful about that. You can play your spacing, especially with the Mercy there on the high ground. You just have to look at the Venture and make sure that you're being disruptive to her, and also that you're not dying on this high ground position. Be careful about playing too samey as well. We're playing this fight in the exact same way as we have others, so by this point, the Torbjorn might have reformulated his approach. He might say, okay, well, I want to play this way instead of this way then. He's going to end up playing a little too samey as well, and that makes him really easy to beat, and you would therefore be able to imagine why I wouldn't ask you to be playing the same way as you had before, right? Amazing that the Torb hasn't died there yet. I might look to continue applying pressure, onto his position, which is perfect. Careful about standing still on this high ground position away from walls, corners, and covers here, and you end up losing the mark on the Lucio, the supports who push you out from high ground. We did tunnel vision a little bit on the Torb there, but these are some excellent shots. Coach gun in 2 seconds. We want to be jumping back up onto the high ground and making sure that we're on the angle that helps us land the shots. Overall, this is some really nice Ashe gameplay. The aim is really nice. The decision making is definitely there. I think that our dynamites could be a little bit bigger, a little bit earlier, right? Use the dynamite to force the Wraith or the TP from Reaper here, right? You're going to have it by the next time the rest of the team here is engaged. Making sure that we're coach gunning to disrupt our targets. I actually really like that one as well there, but we lose the mark on the Reaper, right? We'd seen him TP there as well, right? So it's a little bit unfortunate that we actually even have some of the tools that we need to know that he is approaching us from that angle, that he's looking to manipulate this little corridor here, and that we end up dying to him. Revive comes through for us though, and some nice damage onto the Reaper. I like waiting out that that teleport and landing the timing there. Dynamite is really useful here. Make sure that we're using that pretty much as soon as we can, because the sooner we use it, and as long as we're using it smart, safe, getting value off of it, it's going to be back here pretty soon. Excellent. Yeah, this was a fun Ashe to look at. This is a player that, like I said, this is called Xen, and they go by Clue. So Clue, really good stuff. Just make sure that you're opting for those high ground positions, and that you are looking to control those angles. It's going to make your decisions a lot easier. Your cooldowns a lot more valuable, and also make sure that you're playing different positions. Right. At any point, you could be looking to control the high ground above both of those mega packs. Those give some really nice dynamite angles. So we're playing about twice 20% of the map, and you really want to be making sure that you're playing as much of the map as possible. That's why you even got jumped a couple of times as by some of your threats. Guys, that is going to be it for this particular review. I got a couple of those coming out today, and so you guys can look forward to at least a couple of more of these for to stave us over for the next week or so. This was one of the shorter style reviews, but if you guys are interested in some of the longer style reviews, then that's going to be something that we're able to start doing in the future as a premium coaching service for those who are interested in having their replays really dove into. News is going to come out on that here pretty soon, but for now, I'm very, very thankful to Clue, aka XVen, or no, XZen, for submitting this replay code and letting themselves be observed on the channel, letting us see some of the stuff that's really good and some of the stuff that we can take a second look at. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, XZen, for submitting the replay code for review. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Make sure to stay positively oriented. Be sure to like and comment on the video if you found this content helpful, or you would like to help the channel grow, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Be good to each other, be fair to yourselves, and I'll see you next time.